Fix-It Tony here. Thanks for clicking on the video. So this is our brand new LS460. Here's what happened with this. We almost had an electrical fire. It has a new battery in it now, but that old battery got toasted and we couldn't figure out why. So we put a new battery on, kind of looked around, and we had smoke coming from right down here. So we went under the vehicle, jacked it up. Sure enough, that alternator had shorted internally. Disconnected everything, and now we are where we are today. This car needs an oil change. We'll go ahead and start her off with a Valvoline Restore and Protect. We'll take a look inside, see what she looks like, and then we'll go ahead and replace this alternator. So stay tuned. All right, we're into the car. We actually removed these covers when we were investigating the issue. You can see the alternator is right there. So now that we have it on the lift, this is a much easier job to do. This car has this sport suspension with the Brembo brakes. It actually had the modification to take it back to coil springs. The air suspension that are on these is complete utter garbage. But you know, since we have all the covers off, it'll make doing the oil change and everything a lot easier. We do see some residue for some oil, but after looking and investigating, it just looks like whoever's doing oil change was doing a real sloppy job. So to get started here, it looks like we just have the 4 bolts on the alternator. We should be able to pull it down. It looks like we might have enough room here. If we don't, we will take this steering rack loose and drop it out of the way. All right, so if you don't have one of these tools, it's a little more difficult to do this. And once you remove these covers again, you have the clearance, which just makes it easier for getting the belt off. You're just gonna slide it up there. If I can get a clear line of sight. And then you're just gonna pull it back, and that's it. And then you can go and pull the belt off. Okay, well, I went ahead and started removing this harness because it's gonna need to come out of the way to get that alternator out. This one's kind of a tricky. You have to pop this top tab up, and then this whole thing will swing forward. Take your time, don't break it. I don't even want to know how much that would be if that would have broke. And then just take the bolts loose that hold the other ones on, and then just squeeze them and pull them off. Again, take your time. If you need a tool, go buy one of these for a couple dollars at Harbor Freight. Very good for picking in there and just slowly working and not destroying your fingers. So we got that out of the way, got the bottom 2 bolts out. Now I'm going to try to weasel in there and get these top 2 taken care of. Okay, so I got the bolts out. They're a pain to get to. You can reach through here and get to them. If you're doing it from the bottom, it's also able to be done from the top, but the next parts are going to have to be done at top. So Toyota, for whatever reason, decided to put these studs at the top, which holds the alternator in place, which is nice, but they did not give you enough room to push the alternator out. So you got to remove the upper studs. There's a frame rail right there. So after referring back to the owner, the factory manual, this has to be done from the top. So I'm going to go to the top, and we're going to remove the top 2 studs so we can pull the alternator out. So you see what I'm talking about. Went ahead and removed the air intake. It was easy, just 2 10 millimeters. So we'll focus down here so you can see what I'm talking about. So right, I can try to contort my arm. Right where you can barely see it. See, there's a stud. There's one here and one in the back. And you can see there's a crown head on it. So we have to get a wrench on there and both of those and pull both those studs out so we can slide this alternator out. So tons of fun. Here we go. Okay, so I got the 6 millimeter and I worked those out. It wasn't horribly hard, but it's definitely not easy. Good to get a light down there. You can see it kind of fell down now, and you're going to have this little cover right here. We have, probably looks like a 14 millimeter. We have a straight shot at it, so I can just blast that bad boy off, and then we can start working and wiggling this thing out of here. I think there's one more harness after that to take off. All right, so we're back under the car. These are the studs. They kind of fell out when I was raising everything, but you can see that's what you have to do is you got to get the 6 millimeter on there, and you're just going to take these out. Don't understand what they were thinking when they did this. This is the nut that goes on the electric wire, the power lead, battery cable. And now we have our alternator right here. And the question is, can I squeeze it out through here, or am I gonna have to try to get it out to the top? And I'm gonna play with it and see what we got. All right, so we found why this alternator failed. So it's usually detective work of a terrible mechanic doing really stupid things. So behind here is where the starter is on the LS460. Not an easy job, but I've done 100 of them, so it's not that big of a deal. You can kind of see it back there. People that don't know what they're doing, they usually have a very tough time with this, and it is a tough deal. But they usually forget to put stuff back in, like looking right up here and seeing it. Let's see if I can get it with the camera here. forgetting to put the nut back on, or yanking on the harness to around the alternator and yanking the wires out of it, and then just leaving it there. I'm surprised this car ran as long as it did. Anyway, Amazon has it. We'll have it tomorrow. We'll get back to work on this. We will go ahead and do the oil change though. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the filter so I can let it drain oil overnight. Just always, if you do this, remember put oil back in it, because sometimes you get distracted doing something else and forget you didn't put oil back in. So I try to do that. Even though the car's not done, I try to put the oil in it before I start working back on that. So as you can see, the rack is down out of the way, and we'll move on and go ahead and pull this filter off and get this oil on. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and screw this bad boy on. If you don't have this tool, get it. If you have any sort of Toyota, have these canisters. Just makes draining it a lot easier. You don't have to stick that little tab in there. Just do this, and then you push this bad boy in, and it drains the oil out of the housing, so you don't have oil everywhere. But you can see from all the residue everywhere, whoever was doing this was just making a big mess. So using the right tool to do this makes life easier. But again, whatever mechanic is using, we're gonna have to double check a lot of things, because here's what I've noticed. Obviously that was a problem, and now we have an alternator problem. But here, usually dead giveaway, they don't know what they're doing, is when they start jacking up the car and they start smashing your pinch welds. So that's smashed. We'll straighten those out. There's a reason that I lifted it here by the frame rails and not by there, is because I usually will get in here with some adjustable wrenches, and I'll pull that back straight. You have to use the proper tool for jacking these cars. It's a little puck, looks like this, has a little groove, and allows you to evenly distribute weight. Use the right tool, guys. It just makes life easier. You're not going to be destroying stuff, making more work for somebody down the line. We'll go back over here. We'll let this finish draining out, and then we'll get this filter off. Also, torque these on right. This guy went crazy torquing this thing on. I had to use a breaker bar to get it off. These will snap off, especially on the Corollas. I've had a nightmare situation with one of those. And we'll get a good look at here. A little dirty inside. If you guys see my other LS460, you can know that mine was a lot cleaner looking inside. So this is gonna be an excellent candidate for the Restore and Protect. We'll get our filter back in there and we'll move on to the next step. All right, so we got her on here. I don't know what kind of goo. They put like gasket maker on here. Just oil, that's all you need. Oil, and then you have torque specs right on there. It's roughly, on there it says torque to 25 newton meters, plus or minus 1 or 2. It's not that hard. Tighten it up correctly. Go ahead and take our drain plug loose, and we'll drain the oil. We'll let it drain overnight. All right, fast forward a few days, actually probably more like over a week. I've actually had a lot of other stuff come up, so I haven't been working on this car. But we already have our wire marked for the number 2 pin, and we're just going to extend this cable out. I was thinking about putting new pins in it, but you can see this thing barely reaches. So that's what creates the problem here. When you're up here playing around, it's just too close to everything. And that's probably why they end up ripping it out when they did this. It ripped out the exhaust manifold to do the starter. That's probably why they broke it. So we're just going to extend it. So we got our new cable here, and we're just going to match our pins, and we're going to just cinch these wires together, solder them, and then weatherproof them. And we're going to add all of this length just so we have more length, and then I'll route the wire around to kind of give it more of a way to go. But yeah, I don't like the fact that we're not going to go with this design anymore. It's just too short of a harness. It was a bad design from Toyota from the beginning, so we'll move on from it. Okay, so we have all the wires. Again, I just pulled this boot off so we can reuse it, and we extended the wires. We went ahead and crimped them and sealed them up with some black tape here, and then we verified. And I'll put right now, as you see in the picture, are the colors corresponding to the pin numbers, and they'll be also on the harness itself. Notice that there are 2 green wires. Do not mix them up. So that's the picture of how to orientate these wires. Don't confuse your green wires. You have 2 of them. If you confuse them, you're going to have to get a voltmeter and figure out which one's your ignition and which one's not. So have fun with that. Unfortunately, if you skip that step, you're going to make a little more work for yourself. So we're going to grab some of our tubing here. We're just going to go ahead and put this on and get that all insulated and able to run in a different route so it stays out of the way, and it's also not going to get yanked on in an accident. So here's our final product, and you can see it looks factory. This is a heat proof, this wire insulation stuff, you want to use the high quality stuff. This is very heat resistant up to 300 degrees. There's a lot of heat in here. As you can see, you have the exhaust manifold right up there. So this will give us plenty of heat issues with the heat, and give us a lot more room to have the alternator in here instead of that really tight cable that we had there. We can run it to the side a little bit like that, so that it's not up against the exhaust manifold up there. So anyway, got that done. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready to put this alternator back in. Before we do the alternator, we're gonna go ahead and get some video. I've been draining this thing for better part of a week here, so we should be able to get a pretty good clear picture of what's going on inside this. I can try to get that in the hole there. And we can see it's a pretty clean engine. I don't see anything crazy going on in there. It looks pretty clean. Looks like the oil changes are done on time here. No real slime, a little bit of varnish there, but nothing crazy. That's the oil pickup tube, so we can get a little bit deeper without hitting anything. There's the pickup. A little bit of varnish, nothing terrible. But we know we got her before now. There's a bit of varnish there. We got her before and we'll get her after here. So anyway, I just wanted to get a clear picture of what this thing looks like, but it looks well taken care of. Looks like they're doing their oil changes on time. This engine has never been apart. So anyway, got a good idea what this looks like, and we'll get back to the alternator business. All right, today we're gonna put her back together. Here's our new alternator. Went ahead and put our new nut. If you can see it right here. If the camera would ever focus, it'd be nice. Put our new nut there in the exhaust manifold that they forgot to put back on. And we're just gonna transfer the bolts. You wanna install the bolts on here before you put the alternator back in there, because there's no room once you get up in there. So we're gonna do that right now. All right, now you'll see why I hate engineers. So obviously alternator's in a compact area right next to the exhaust manifold. It's going to fail. So Toyota and Lexus, why in the world would we design this like this? No extra slack. You have to put it in this weird angle up here. So get up here, put the nut on, collapse it, and then you put a red strap on a harness that's a ground strap. It's like, I don't understand what you guys are thinking here. But anyway, we got that on. We got the connector in the back, so now we can start positioning it into place. But again, by no means is this easy. So we're back on top. So we got to get down in there. It's hard to see. Go ahead and try to find out. See the stud right there. Try to focus in for you. That stud, there's one there and one in back that you can't see. You have to weasel them in there. That's why it's easier to get the rack out to get your hand in there. But now we have to go ahead and tighten up those studs so we can put the nut. Well, sometimes there's a miracle. I was able to get the ratchet onto the back one here, just enough with a 1/4 inch and a 3/8 adapter to drive that one in. At least one win on this car. All right, well, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you just want to go ahead and put everything back on the way it came off. You have the 4 bolts hooked to the framing for the steering rack, and then all these harnesses, you can just use a pick to open them up. And then just make sure you put all your 10 millimeters back in for retaining these wires right here. And pretty easy. And then your ground strap, which they put a red wire on, which still don't understand that. But you need to go ahead and tighten up your bolt for your ground strap to your engine. We're going to go and lower her down and put her belt back on and put some oil in her and give her a test start. All right, so just a couple 10 millimeter, take the hose harnesses there, and we can go ahead and put the belt back on. Throttle body is absolutely horrendous, so we'll go ahead and deal with that right now. Wipe that all out while we're in here, and then we'll get almost one step closer. Just got to put oil in. All right, so we got the belt on. These are kind of a pain, just to warn you. You have to really you have to have an extended arm on your ratchet or one of these tools, which I've showed you before. Just makes it a little bit easier. So we're gonna go ahead and put our Valvoline Restore and Protect in here. She's alive, everything looks good. We'll check our voltage, make sure we're at the voltage we need to be, and we'll finish reassembly here. They did the valve covers on these, but as you can see, just like with everything else, breaking stuff, and then I don't know what the hell they're going to do with this. Got some other work we have to go back and do. They did replace that harness, it looks like. So yeah, whoever worked on this thing, please don't touch another car. So we're gonna go ahead and put all the beauty covers back on, put the belly pan on, and we're about ready to go. All right, so we have all our covers on. Invest in some push tabs from Amazon. I'll put them in the description, and also the bolts. I'll put those in because half the time those are missing. I also went ahead and straightened out the pinch welds on both sides so we can jack it correctly going off and forward in the future. Again, do not use a regular jack to jack these cars. Use a puck so you don't run into the problems of crushing this thing. So anyway, we'll get her down. All right, she's all back together. All the beauty covers are back on. Go and send her on her way. We'll get her back in about 5,000 miles. Take a look at inside the engine, see if Restore and Protect has done its thing in there. We don't know if this car's consuming oil yet, so we'll find out. But this project did take a lot longer. I apologize, missing videos. I've been sick. A lot of other stuff happened, unfortunately, so this took a little longer than I would have liked. But stay tuned because there's a lot more content coming. Please subscribe, like, and share. Have a great day.